Hey everybody, we want to welcome you to the inaugural episode of the Get Your Geek On podcast. I'm your host, Jon Kiwacz.
I'm Robert Dokes.
I'm Anthony Arsenio.
And this is episode 1, our Civil War special. So we want to welcome you guys in. We're going to be taking a look at some of the weekly geeky headlines this week and then launching into our spoiler-filled Civil War review. So we want to give you a fair heads up now. If you haven't seen the movie, turn away from the podcast because we will be talking in depth about all the details and characters.
Unless you're into spoilers, in which case stick around.
Alrighty, and Robert's going to be my co-host here weekly. Robert, how'd you get started in the geek world?
Well, I am a lifelong comic book fan, so I've been reading comics for most of my life. And when we get there, we talk about I mostly started out Marvel. Really got into X-Men #1 with the Jim Lee run with that, and just really artwork, and followed that, and then went back in time to go see some of the early works. So Uncanny X-Men, Fantastic Four, Avengers, Dark Phoenix Saga. Those were all my jams back in the day. DC stuff, Batman, obviously, Superman, and cartoons.
Anthony, what hooked you into comics?
Comics. Comics themselves. Typically started at the Batman 66 television show, watching the reruns on television as I was a kid. Loved it. Still love it. It's the Batman I aspire to be one day. Been reading comics for about 20 years. My favorite, I gotta gravitate towards DC, though right now I'm leaning more Marvel because the movies are great and the comics are better. And DC seems to not know what they're doing sometimes.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you there. I'm hardcore DC through.
I hear you. I love me some DC.
Well, I was actually born in it. My father collected comics before I was even born into it. Hardcore DC. I'm a Green Lantern and Flash guy. But our point here on this podcast is just a continuation of what we do at Nerdomom, and we're going to bring you the best geeky news, all-encompassing, whether it's TV, movies, casting news, basically anything in the geek culture. We're going to bring it here, unfiltered, unadulterated, and honest opinions all around. So we want to get started this week with basically how we're going to run the format of our show. Robert, we're going to have you be the leader of the show, and we're just going to kind of run through some of the hot topics in this week's Hollywood headlines.
So let's talk about some casting and headlines from the week. Obviously, the one we're going to talk about is going to be some of the Marvel stuff, particularly the change to Civil War, looking at the fact that they're going to retitle it and talk about some of the things.
Infinity Wars, you mean? Yeah.
The Infinity War. Yeah. I don't want to call it that because it may not end up being that.
Well, it's actually been confirmed. The Russo brothers did confirm at a festival in Toronto this year that due to the varying tone of the two movies being so completely different that they are going to retitle them. Infinity War right now is just a holding title.
I'm sure one of them will be called Infinity War. It's got to be.
Well, nobody knows. The idea is, when you think about it, because of what they're doing here, it's not to say it's unheard of. We see these movies before, so you have like Harry Potter, The Deathly Hallows, Part 1 and 2.
Sure.
You know, the Avengers, the Infinity War, it sounds great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Part 1 and 2, you usually end up with this connotation. So it's like, look at the last Hunger Games series. It's like the Mockingjay, Part 1 and 2. And
yeah, the long end of the trilogy is the new fad.
Yeah, the long end of the trilogy. And so it's, I think I appreciate the fact that they're going to come out with separate, distinct films, and they're going to use that. They don't want to play on that. It's like, well, this is going to be Part 1 and this is going to be Part 2. It seems very passe right now. And if they're saying there's two distinct tones to the film, I think it should really go with separate naming.
Oh yeah, totally. I don't think it should be a Part 1 and Part 2. I'm just really hoping that one of them's called Infinity War.
Yeah.
Well, also in the Infinity War, we do have breaking rumor casting news here. It looks like Chloe Grace Moretz is in current talks for the Captain Marvel role. Apparently that puts breaking news according to Hollywood Reporter.
Wait, as in Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel?
As in
Carol
Miss
Danvers?
Marvel, yes, Carol Danvers. Chloe Grace Moretz, for those of you who don't know.
But she's so tiny.
Big girl. Actually, she's grown up. I don't know if you saw Neighbors 2. It's actually her next coming movie now. I think she's hit about 5'4", 5'5".
Oh, I always pictured my Captain Marvel as like this 6'5", really strong, really broad-shouldered woman.
Robert, your thoughts on that?
That's an interesting casting. That's not one I would have expected. Some of the names that were out there initially were Emily Blunt. Mm-hmm. There was talk about Ronda Rousey for a little while.
Ronda Rousey, hardcore fan.
She would fit the role, like image-wise. I'm not sure if she can act.
Image-wise, but and Marvel, I could understand some of the issues that Marvel just trying to get her in her fight schedule. That might, she's not like Gina Carano, who did the Deadpool movie. Gina Carano's mostly out of MMA right now. But
Chloe Moretz does have the fighting background from doing the Kick-Ass movies.
She does have that, and it's not, so did Aaron Michael Paul. I never get his name.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I'm just kind of tired of her, to be honest.
I
haven't been impressed with her in probably since the first Kick-Ass.
I don't know much about the Captain Marvel role. I was never a really fan of those comics. I know she's got some great powers, but I could see that.
She's starting to play a big role now in the comics.
Yeah, she's starting to play a big role now in the comics.
She's one of the leaders of the new Civil War that they're doing, Civil War 2.
Yeah, she's actually featured in my favorite comic book that's currently ongoing right now. Is called The Ultimates.
Okay.
It's pretty much what the Fantastic Four should have been for the last 30 years, but isn't. And she's part of that team with Black Panther as well. And it's awesome. If you haven't checked it out, you really should. It's basically what they're trying to do is solve everything, which was Reed Richards' master plan. And they're starting with curing Galactus of his hunger, and they do it in like a second issue.
I don't think it's Black Panther. I think it's Blue Marvel.
Blue Marvel and Black Panther.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where they get all their funding from. Is from Blue Marvel, and all the tech comes from Wakanda.
I enjoy the Blue Marvel storyline because that was deep.
That's a deep cut.
If anybody's ever read Kevin Graveau. Kevin Graveau is the writer of wrote the Underworld movies.
Yep. And
he uses his background he wrote this really great story for Marvel called the Blue Marvel. Very apropos, very historic, and to see that they're continually using that character is a really good thing.
Well, he's the main character of the book. He's the narrator, or most of the time, and he's the one that bookends like the preludes and the epilogues.
Yeah.
And the other confirmed casting news that we do have today is Alden Ehrenreich has been cast as the young Han Solo in the Han Solo prequel movie. Thoughts on this?
I don't think they should.
For those that don't know, Alden Ehrenreich is a very unknown actor. He's got 2 main IMDb credits to his name. The movie Beautiful Creatures, which was an indie teen bop superhero movie.
Never seen it.
And Hail Caesar, the new.
Hail Caesar was pretty good.
So he's in that. He has been confirmed as our new Han Solo. Who
was he in Hail Caesar? Was he the curly haired guy?
Yeah, he's the young kid in Hail Caesar.
Okay, cool.
I have mixed feelings on this one. I don't understand the point of doing a Han Solo prequel as it is, let alone recasting such an iconic character. Robert, your take?
Well, I mean, Disney's whole thing is to make a Star Wars movie every year, pretty much for the rest of our lives, and so
Thank God.
Awesome. Well, it depends on how it goes, and this is where I have to agree with Chuck, where I don't know necessarily if there was a market for it.
Mm-hmm.
Han Solo is an iconic character.
I think one of the most iconic. I mean, there's a difference between rebooting and understand that some characters need to be remade, but I mean, come on, Han Solo.
Harrison Ford made that character, and I always like telling the people that if you've ever seen some of the old Star Wars stuff, Harrison Ford, when he got that role, he was working on Star Wars as a carpenter.
Yeah.
He got paid $10,000.
It was just like as a carpenter because he wasn't thinking this this acting thing was going to work out. And George Lucas had him sit on, have him was like, hey, do a couple of readings. And for what they wanted for Han Solo to be initially, Harrison Ford was better. And he did such a great job in the role that he will always forever be Han Solo.
That's why I feel like The Force Awakens was like the end of the Han Solo story, that whole movie. Spoilers.
Well, spoilers if you haven't seen it. Or if you want to see, Disney tells the entire Force Awakens in emojis, so if you want to kind of get an idea.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
They just released that recently on YouTube. So
that's funny.
And then lastly in our casting news this week, it looks like the final Hugh Jackman Wolverine film is rounding out its cast with Stephen Merchant, the co-creator of The Office.
I love him.
Elise Neal and Eric LaSalle joining the cast. Stephen Merchant's the weird one there.
He's great, though. He's pretty versatile, man.
He's very versatile. He's a great comedic actor.
Yeah.
But how's he going to fit into a Wolverine movie?
I don't know. It's always been surmised that they're going to do Old Man Logan.
Which I don't understand, because those of you that have read the Old Man Logan comic book, it's personally my favorite Marvel comic book series ever put out. There are so many characters in that story that they don't have the rights to, and one of the main battles is the Hulk and the Hulkling freaks. So
they could figure something out.
And, I have not seen Eric LaSalle on television or just in anything for a very long time, so I don't know where they're going, and until they drop a script, I'm not going to make a judgment on it.
Alrighty, so that's it for the casting call this week. Now I think we're going to move into some trailer talk news with some new trailers out.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Now, those of you that saw Civil War last night know that they did drop a new X-Men Apocalypse trailer, which looked amazing.
Really? I didn't see one.
You did not see
No.
that? Oh, wow. We had a new one. It was great. It had some great cage fight scenes with Nightcrawler and Archangel. It had some new in-depth featurettes into Apocalypse's powers. Just a great trailer all in all. I'm really hyped up for this movie. I'm a huge X-Men fan, and I thought what they did with Days of Future Past was amazing. Having Bryan Singer back on and what they've done with those characters is great. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I've always been really wishy-washy with the X-Men movie series. I was a big fan of the comics when I was growing up. Not so much anymore. Loved the 90s cartoon. That was my jam for a very long time.
Love the 90s cartoon.
I don't know. I'm excited because I'm really just hoping that they do some real serious justice for Cyclops, because he's so awesome in the comics, and I feel like he was so lackluster in the films.
No disrespect to James Marsden.
No, he did it great. It's just he wasn't a leader, and that's what I want from Cyclops.
When you have to look at the Hollywood side of things, they have to focus on marketing, and so Wolverine has always been the more marketable character.
I totally understand it, yeah.
And so that's the one where it's like, Wolverine's the bad boy. He drives the motorcycle. Scott's the straight-laced guy. Is the pencil neck, and you're like...
Well, the weird thing about it, on my point, and if I'm wrong in the comics, correct me, but I always thought Cyclops was the older brother, Havoc was his younger brother.
Yeah, that is the case.
They're flipping that one here.
That is the case. Cyclops is the older brother, but basically, when you're looking at the universe that Fox has created, starting from First Class all the way through Days of Futures Past, it's obvious that Bryan Singer doesn't necessarily hold to tradition. One of the biggest gripes I've always had with the X-Men films is the casting of Rogue. That was when it came out with the
not an Anna Paquin thing.
No, it's not the Anna Paquin. It was just the idea is she her role was the role of kind of Jubilee, or
who will be in X-Men Apocalypse in the new trailer.
X-Men, but also Kitty Pryde, because Wolverine had a great relationship with her.
I love Kitty Pryde. She's my favorite X-Men.
Yeah. And why not cast Anna Paquin as that? Now they have, I forget her name now.
Ellen
Page, as they had her as Kitty Pryde. And her career blew up, and it's nice to see that was huge. But they never had this, for me at least, they never had the characters right. So people were not in the right roles, or with the arcs that they used from. That's kind of where I was going with that. But it'll be interesting to see what happened with the relationship with Havoc being the older brother and Scott being the younger.
Well, I've been following this one very closely since it was announced, and one of the takes that I will say about Cyclops is they seem to be making him almost a very scared mutant. Like, he's not in control of his powers. He's very scared to use them and when they're thrust into the situation. But one of the things that has been confirmed and is shown in the new trailer is Sophie Turner's Jean Grey apparently will be going Dark Phoenix, is where they're taking the tone
already
for the next movie after this. Not in this movie, but it's made apparent and known in one of the new clips, and that there's something dark inside her that both her and Professor X know that she can't control. So it looks like that's where they're going to be going after this.
I feel like it's too soon.
I think what they're doing with taking it decade by decade is great. I mean, this
is
the completion of this trilogy, and this is to open up the new trilogy. Casting the new Storm, Jean Grey, Cyclops is going to allow them to kind of reinvigorate this franchise after this.
Don't you want to just see the old classic lineup with Snowball, Iceman?
See, as someone that was never hardcore X-Men guy, Nightcrawler was always my guy, so to see him...
So you're like a giant-sized new X-Men.
I'm just happy to see what they're doing with these characters. I mean, X-Men The Last Stand almost really turned me away from the X-Men franchise.
That was a destroyer. I mean, it was
a pretty bad movie.
It was a really, really bad movie. They didn't do anything right with that, although essentially what they were saying when they did Days of Futures Past, remember that thing that we did? None of that happened ever.
Yeah, so that reversed it.
Reversed it.
They wonkered it.
The biggest thing I'm excited about for this movie is it's been confirmed the Quicksilver scene in this movie is way more elaborate and way more important than it was in Days of Future Past, which I think we can all agree that was the scene stealer of that movie.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well, I always make the joke that, again, Aaron Taylor, Michael, I'm sorry. Dude, if you listen to this, I'm sorry I'm butchering your name. Aaron Paul Johnson, or Aaron Taylor.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
That one guy.
He took his wife's name. Yeah. He deserves to have it messed up.
Yeah. So, his wife was in Kick-Ass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his teacher was...
She's the director of 50 Shades of Rape.
Oh, boy.
So, he did such a great job that I'm like, they actually, I'm in my mind, I think the MCU saw that and like, we got to kill this Quicksilver. because the one that was in Days of Future Past was
just
much
unbelievable.
And so
now, if I'm wrong, Robert, you may know a little bit more about the rights than I do. Now, what my understanding was, because of the fact that both Marvel and Fox share Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, there was an understanding that I had thought that was made that in the Marvel side of things, they could never acknowledge the fact that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were mutants, and they could never acknowledge the fact that Magneto was their father.
Yep.
On the Fox side of things, it was that they could never acknowledge the fact that they were ever part of the Avengers. But I also thought that there was something about them not being able to say Magneto being the father. But in the new Apocalypse trailer, Quicksilver says to Mystique, "You're my that's Magneto's my father."
This is on the Fox side. The big thing with Marvel at this point in time, you might notice that, and as we get into Civil War, anytime they talk about a superpowered being, they use the word enhanced
individual. Yeah.
And so because they legally can't use the word mutant. And so
that's why they're pushing the Inhumans so hard.
Well, there's a big story behind that. When we could talk about that a little later when we talk about the MCU stuff. The big thing is that Marvel has really kind of crushed things that they don't own, and so it was very apparent where you want to see the marketing for X-Men. Mm-hmm. But there's not. They've crushed it in the comic. They're pushing
the
things
X-Men are such small parts
they're
of the
smart,
comics
like
now.
They're
not even attached to the main universe.
They're not even attached to the main universe right now, and it's because Marvel does not own the rights to that. And maybe, the hope is that down the road, or at least my hope is that whatever happens with the Infinity War or after this, then maybe Fox decides to play ball.
That'd be awesome. Don't you want to see Wolverine fight the Hulk?
I think that's what we all want. That's what it's all ever been.
You want to see that universe collide. You want to have those guys in there to make this universe complete, because look at what happened with Sony. Sony looked at it and said, look, we're losing money every time we do this franchise. And outside of the scandals that they had last year, wanting to make a Sinister Six movie and all over the place. And they said, look, Marvel's like, we will help you. And how much that happened. And I was really happy with what I saw with Civil War, and it gives me hope for the future. And I just hope for that similar hope for X-Men, because let's be honest, if this movie bombs, you're going to have people coming out of the woodwork saying,
I don't see there's any way that this movie bombs at all.
It could.
It's already made tons of money overseas.
The X, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm excited about it. I think.
Are we
great.
talking X-Men?
We're talking
X-Men.
All right.
I was gonna say, what movie have you seen that's opened?
I don't think it'll bomb. I don't think it'll be as amazing as we'd like it to be.
I think it will. I think with what Days of Future Past built upon for this, and I think Apocalypse is the Thanos of the X-Men universe. It's the villain that everybody's always wanted to see.
Every universe has a big purple bad guy.
Just for that. And the fact that we're getting the new Jean Grey, the new Cyclops, this new younger generation to restart the franchise, I think it's going to bring in a whole new audience. It's going to hook the people in. Let's face it, whether this movie sucks or not, we're all going to go see it.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna,
of course,
absolutely. You're definitely going to see it.
I'm going to go see Young Han Solo, the movie.
They're taking our money.
I don't know if I'm going to see that one. It's because I'm of a certain age and I have memories of Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Harrison Ford will always be Han Solo to me, and to see somebody else play that role.
But back to Robert's point about how Sony played ball with Marvel, it doesn't even seem like they played ball anymore. Now with the news that Marvel has complete creative control over Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, they're just doing the distribution.
Sony's just distributing at this point.
Yeah, well, at this point in time, it's because Sony doesn't want to lose the money. Like, they've lost so much money on the film trying to make this movie work. So you had Spider-Man 3, which was horrendous, and they reboot the series, and I know we'll talk about that later with some of the things, but for the works that Marvel doesn't own, you can see that when they didn't own Spider-Man was never promoted. They never talked about it. They never talked about toys and merchandising, because Marvel owns, outside of the fact that the movie franchise may be one thing, Marvel owns the rights to the franchising and merchandising of their gear. So they wouldn't ever be like, yeah, we're not going to put on any backpacks. We're not going to put on any toys. We're not going to do anything. And so that kills, now Sony has the ability to make money off of that, and merchandising, have that in stores, whatever.
Well, their team up with Marvel for Spider-Man Homecoming gives Marvel complete creative control, but apparently Sony's pushing hard now to try to get the Venom movie back on track, which was originally slated, which I don't see that. I think that if you build up this new Spider-Man franchise well enough, which we'll get into how great they've done with Spider-Man in the short amount that he's in the MCU, I think you could do a really good Venom storyline with Marvel having some creative control in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know, for me, the big thing is why you have a group of people who know how to do it better, comic writers, and I know Hollywood gets involved, and that's my main issue, that Hollywood gets involved and somebody has a great idea and then they run with it. But in the end, here are the people who know how to write the stories, who know how to market it. Why fight them?
Perfect example of that is the Green Lantern movie. As a diehard Green Lantern fan, I know it's universally disliked, but if you go and read Greg Berlanti's original script for the Green Lantern movie, it was an amazing
it was way different.
movie. It was so destroyed and cut down by Hollywood, because that's what happens. These guys that know nothing of the properties get involved, money gets involved, and things get butchered.
We need him to do things. We need him to make the suit CG. You know?
But at least we got a really awesome looking Sinestro.
We did, and I love that we got the after credits clip of the Sinestro.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But changing gears a little bit, we're going to start talking TV, and that's going to bring us to one of our great talking points today, which is the DC TV universe. And by that, we mean Gotham, Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. If you're not watching these shows, we highly recommend them. Most of their season ones are available on Netflix. But we're going to get right into this week's Flash, because it was pretty eventful of an episode here.
Oh, yeah.
No, for those of you that don't know, this season of The Flash, Flash just recently lost his powers to Zoom, sacrificed his powers to save Wally West, and this episode was all about him getting his powers back. Now, you guys both caught up on this week's episode?
Oh, yeah.
So what were your thoughts on them trying to recreate the particle accelerator explosion?
I loved it. I loved watching Barry burst into pure speed force. And I'm really, really excited for Kid Flash, because Wally West was my Flash for my whole life.
Robert?
Interesting to see where they go with this. This has been a very interesting season of Flash for me. I've been very surprised that the multiverse, how deep the multiverse is, and it's allowed more speedsters to come in, like Velocity. Now it looks like we're going to get Jesse Quick and Kid Flash.
I'm not too convinced about that. I think that, well, first of all, the difference between Barry getting hit, I've read a lot of debate online, people saying, oh, they can't be speedsters yet because there wasn't electricity involved in this and that. They didn't get hit by a particle accelerator wave. They got hit by Barry Allen as pure speed force. Like, so they're speed force in their systems. But I think the way that it might be set up at the end is, I think we'll see Wally West become Kid Flash and train under Barry, but I think Jesse Quick might go back to Earth 2 and be the Flash of Earth 2 to defend
I would take that. That's really cool.
I think that's a really great way to take on, and you're not oversaturating the show with speedsters, which is something that they were worried about. But I think the biggest mystery of this show is the man in the iron mask, and I think it was all but revealed who it's going to be this week.
Oh, yeah.
For those of you that didn't catch the episode, Henry Allen, John Wesley Shipp, who I've had the pleasure to interview several times.
And who was Flash once before.
Yes, he was the 90s Flash. Name drops that his mother's maiden name was Garrick, which is a huge Easter egg for those of you that know the original Earth 2 Flash was Jay Garrick. So I'm led to believe that it's Henry Allen's doppelganger from Earth 2 is the original Jay Garrick.
Barry's dad is the Flash.
I'm still thinking I think it's Jay Garrick, but because remember early in the episodes, I think it's I think he made that reference to Hunter Zolomon, which we know is Zoom, and so I'm like, it would be nice if it were John Wesley Shipp, but at the same time,
I think it might be John Wesley Shipp, but his name on Earth 2 is Jay Garrick.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be something like that, because we know in the Speed Force vision, we've seen everything come true now except for the 90s Flash that they showed. When he's running through the Speed Force, they showed Supergirl, the Legion ring, everything else like that, and they showed a clear as day image of the 90s West Flash. And the interviews that I've had with him, he is very, very tight-lipped about anything coming to Jay Garrick. And it's not the tight-lipped like, oh, I just can't say anything with it. It's the tight-lipped like there's something going on and that he can't tell us.
Like he gives you a wink almost.
Plus, I just think the idea of seeing those two in the season finale of Jay Garrick running alongside Barry Allen, like father and son, I think that'd be
see, because I'd like to have an older Jay Garrick. I need to see some gray in those hairs.
And that's what I really think it sets itself up nicely for it. He's the perfect age, the perfect build, and I think it would make a great storyline for Barry to see.
And I love the fact that they continue to throw back. A lot of the DC TV shows continue to throw back, and the fact that they brought John Wesley Shipp in, because I grew up with the 90s Flash for as long as it was on the air, and to see Mark Hamill.
It was pretty good.
It was really, really good, and you're like, even with the, who was that? Danny Elfman soundtrack, and it's very iconic.
And Blue Evil Flash.
Blue Evil Flash, yeah.
And can we acknowledge the Harry Potter reference in this week's episode?
Yes.
Of Cisco on the roof saying Expecto Patronum.
Yeah.
Like that was
his wand.
And the wand, and Harry's like, get the wand. The one I built for the Harry Potter convention, or the one I built for the Weather Wizard. But it's a great show. If you're not watching Flash, get on it now. I think we're all really getting excited.
Watch the Flash. It's my favorite show on television.
I think it is the best show on TV right now, hands down. It is the best show at bringing a comic book to life. Yep. Those guys can literally rip things right off of the page. I mean, Killer Frost, Zoom, obviously they've taken their liberties with the character in the comics as compared to what we see on TV. I like what they've done.
I love
with
it. I
I do
love it.
like what they've done, and I like the fact that Jeff Johns is on the show, and he's been a major
Jeff
writer.
Johns is DC Jesus to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's my
what that guy's
he's
done
my
to
DC
Flash and
Jesus.
Green Lantern, my two favorite characters, has been amazing. He introduced Anthony and I are big Blackest Night fans. That's my favorite comic book storyline ever. He created all of that. But I mean, what they're doing with this show is just amazing. But my question is, where do they go for season 3? We've had Reverse Flash, we've had Zoom. We now know the multiverse is there. But Gorilla
Crisis.
City, they've said is too expensive to do for a season-wide villain. They just don't have the production budget for that. There is the new speedster that they're bringing in, the Rebirth storyline named Godspeed.
Yep.
We don't really know much about him yet. I could see possibly that. What are your thoughts on a villain for season 3?
I have a pretty good idea of what I would love to see is starts out with a bang. Like Barry's going to save the day at the end of the season, obviously. Defeat Zoom, make Central City great. I think what should happen is right before they close the breaches for good, I think there should be an immediate attack.
Well, there's never
by the
going to be
guerrilla
closed
army.
breaches for good
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, because
with
of
Vibe.
Vibe, but I would love to see before the breach closes, when they send their Earth 2 people home, I would love to see just an immediate attack by an army of guerrillas, just for one episode, but it decimates Central City and the rogues take over. That would be awesome.
See, I'm still
I
waiting
would
for
love
Mirror
to
Master.
see. Me too. That's what I'm saying. Maybe Mirror Master sets up the rogues this time around, and Captain Cold joins them and takes over. But I would love to see a whole season with Central City in disarray, run by the rogues, and then it could end in Rogue War, which was an awesome storyline.
Well, I think we do still have the seeds for Flashpoint being laid. Due to the season 1 finale, we've seen the future Barry that tells that Barry not to hint at his mom. And it's been said by Kreisberg they will be going back and showing that. New pictures that were just released for Kevin Smith's directed episode show Barry Allen in the living room with an alive Nora Allen. So this may be the episode where he travels back from that, trying to escape from the Speed Force. Could be a Speed Force vision. We don't know.
Oh, yeah.
that-
Kevin
that
Smith's
or-
got the next one, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Smith directed this one, and he's going to be directing 2 episodes of season 3. He's going up in August to
Great.
shoot those as well.
Sorry for interrupting you.
We're diehard Kevin Smith fans.
Nope. Well, I'm a big Kevin Smith fan because just the fact that outside of the fact that he loves comics, he's from New Jersey, and he does Jay and Silent Bob, and those are.
Are you from New Jersey?
I'm originally from New Jersey.
Oh, cool. Whereabouts?
Montclair.
Nice.
Well, one of the great things about The Flash is I'm highly into this show. They basically have a formula that Kreisberg has put together that every episode has to have equal parts heart, humor, and spectacle.
Yep.
And I think it makes for great TV. And they say if it has one bit too much of one of those, if it's got too much heart, it's not a good episode. If it's got too much humor, it's not a great episode. They find such a great balance. And I really never feel like in a 22-episode season, there's usually 4 or 5 episodes in a show that you're like, that's just filler.
Hasn't been a bad episode of Flash yet?
There has not. No, there hasn't been a bad episode of the ship program at all. I think that's what I like the Flash more than I like Arrow, because
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I don't watch Arrow
I
at
can't
all.
watch Arrow.
I
I-
watch
it-
the crossovers.
Well, you watch the crossovers. Arrow is not a chore to watch, but it becomes very hard to watch because it's either it gets too much dramatic-y, too soap opera-y, and then they
and
pull
let's
it back.
be honest, he's a guy with a bow and arrow.
Well, no,
I
okay,
love the
let's not-
Green Arrow.
That's not
Oh,
my
I
major
love the
problem.
Green Arrow.
Let's be real. They steal a lot of Batman's storyline.
Oh, I
and
think
it's
the
like
Batman, half of Batman's rogues are on that show,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Not half of Batman. It's just the way that they've done the Son of the Demon last year with Ra's al Ghul. That really kind of upset me because that's a major Batman thing, and I know that they don't want to touch that, but they could have done something else. There are other people that you could have used. You could have talked about Merlin. You could have done so many other things.
I'm hoping for Flashpoint personally. I think that they could do a lot with it. I saw this week a fan-made trailer that merged the DC Cinematic Universe with the Flash TV show for a Flashpoint trailer, and I got to tell you, it is the most amazing fan-made trailer I've ever seen. Basically, him going back to save his mom causes everything that you see in Batman vs. Superman, causes Superman to go dark side and everything else like that. And it's got Victor Garber explaining how he would be the only one to know the differences in the timeline. Great trailer. We'll put the links up with this for anybody that wants to check that out. But I think Flashpoint would be a great point to jump off for Season 3. But moving on, we're going to take a look at Supergirl, which apparently is in doubt. It had been confirmed that Supergirl was going to get a Season 2. Apparently, CBS now having second thoughts due to the $3 million per episode budget. Word has it they're moving production to Vancouver to cut costs, but it looks like it could actually be finding a new home on the CW. Want to get your thoughts and reactions to that, guys?
It's a CW show on CBS. It should be on the CW.
It should be on the CW.
I really do feel it should be on the CW. It immediately opens up the possibility for crossovers. You have a built-in
because
audience.
Barry and Kara had amazing
That-
chemistry.
that-
They
that
were
is
one
so
of the
good
best
to watch
TV
together.
episodes. I think we can all agree the Flash Supergirl crossover is one of the best superhero things that's ever been
That
filmed.
was
Like,
awesome.
And they want her back on the Flash on that one. They were trying to figure out whether it was going to be Kara Zor-El as Power Girl or
Power Girl is what I had heard.
Power Girl would be
As her Earth 2
Pretty
Power
doppelganger.
Girl, or if they bring it to the CW now, maybe you could have Supergirl as part of this.
Well, as of shooting this episode today at 3 p.m., it was confirmed production will be moving to Vancouver for the same set where they film all the CW TV shows. So I think at this point it's almost a done deal that it'll be going to CW. I don't think CBS is going to want to pick it up. They want the show to stay on the air one way or the other. But I think bringing it to CW, you immediately, now you have a full week's worth of TV show lineups, which I know some people could feel like is oversaturation. But the ability of what you can do to bring life into Arrow and having these crossovers, 4 shows now that have a shared universe.
I'm really digging the hope that there might be the trinity of, Barry, Oliver, and Kara. That's a pretty neat little alternate trilogy.
And I mean, the way that they're setting up Green Lantern, I really think we're going to get a Lantern on either Legends of Tomorrow or Flash coming up soon, so it'd be great to see that. Now, Legends of Tomorrow is actually going to be wrapping up its first season. Rumor has it Alan Scott will be making his debut, and it looks like some of the first names for Season 2 have started to leak out. Rumor has it that we'll be getting Vibe, possibly Kid Flash, Constantine, and Deadman.
Love all of that.
So
Yeah.
any
That sounds
thoughts
great.
on those? I think Deadman is a great choice. I think he's a highly underrated character.
He's amazing.
Yeah, Deadman is a very good choice. Constantine, if you guys have seen the episode on Arrow,
That was really good.
that was really
was
good.
awesome.
I really, really feel, and it's getting back to kind of the Supergirl thing, where we're talking about why is this on NBC?
CBS.
Why, no.
No, Constantine
was on NBC.
See, I
So
never watched it.
Friday
It was on.
nights at like 10
It
o'clock.
was like Friday nights at 10. Exactly.
So
it was,
bad.
It was like, it was on the wrong channel. It's such an interesting character. It needed to be on CW.
I loved the show. I thought it was awesome. Every episode I was heavily invested.
It was but it just was on the wrong channel. It was on the wrong channel. And the fact that the actor was able to come back and do his thing on Arrow and be that same character that people related to in the NBC show, it's great.
That's one thing that did is he was universally loved. People thought he really did bring that.
Matt
some
Ryan
great
was
parts to the
really,
character.
really good as Constantine.
And so, really, really good.
Yeah.
Bring him back. I'd like to see them try to reboot the show in some way, shape, or form on the CW, because I think you need to have that. We have the superpower aspect. Let's talk about the mystical aspect.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting enough. It's very apparent in the season Arrow they're talking about this stuff, but now next season it's not going to be there.
I would totally 100% watch every episode and buy the DVD of like a buddy cop style Swamp Thing Constantine movie.
Well,
or TV
that
show.
actually segues
would
here.
be so
Swamp Thing
awesome.
is apparently one of the possible Legends of Tomorrow season 2s, and we have
They're
2
gonna do Justice
character
League Dark.
descriptions here that were just released of what could possibly be new cast members. The casting calls have gone out for Legends of Tomorrow season 2, and our first one is a male in his late 20s to mid 30s being sought to play a guy who grew up in the shadow of his World War II hero grandfather and has used a Han Solo-like facade to conceal his insecurity. Rumor has it this character is Sergeant Rock, which I am not too
Interesting.
familiar with.
Sergeant Rock's an old Golden Age character.
Yeah.
And an African-American woman living in the 1940s. Looks like she's tied to a member of the Blackhawks team.
Interesting.
Okay.
So it looks like they are really reaching
Deep
deep
cuts.
here. But it looks like Alan Scott may possibly be the leader of Season 2, possibly for a New Gods Mother Box storyline.
You think they'll have Rip Hunter still doing his thing?
From everything I've heard with Season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow, it's going to be new cast every season.
Man,
new
where's my
storyline.
Booster Gold at?
Booster
Yeah,
Gold,
Booster
that's
Gold.
the thing.
Well, that's
Whoever
so
this guy
bad.
is that they cast, he's either going to be Booster Gold or Alan Scott. It's believed to be the
I would
the guy that's
love
gonna be
to watch. I'd watch a buddy cop movie with Rip Hunter and Booster Gold.
Well, the
That'd
buddy
be
cop
awesome.
movie is going to be Green Lantern Corps. That's been confirmed to basically be
Yeah,
a
that's
lethal
neat.
weapon in space. So I think
No
we're
Guy
gonna be getting-
Gardner though. No word of a Guy Gardner in that.
I can do without him.
I love Guy Gardner. He punched Batman in the face.
So Gotham is also had some pretty great debut this week. For those of you that aren't caught up on Gotham, I highly recommend it. Season 2 has really come along pretty well. But Azrael made his debut.
Interesting.
Controversial.
Batman.
Robert, you're shaking your
I
head.
don't watch that. I purposely don't watch that show.
I wasn't a fan of Season 1. I felt like that
thought it
the
was
young
pretty bad.
Bruce Wayne, I'm wondering how long they could really carry on with that. But season 2, they've really developed their villains well. Riddler's been fully born. You've seen the rise of Penguin, the rise of the Joker, and Batman is finally, like, the young Bruce Wayne. You see him on his path to Batman.
But he's not Batman.
He's
Not.
Well, this
Bad
week's
guys are there.
Azrael, there's a moment at the end of the episode where young Bruce sees Azrael in, like, running off into the
This
night.
Jump
in
Out
his
Valley?
suit. Yeah, and it's just, he's got the look in his eye like, this is what I'm going to do.
Crazy
This is not-
Saint Dumas stuff.
Yeah, it's they resurrected Theo Gallivant.
Oh, okay.
Hugo Strange resurrected him into Azrael.
Interesting.
So that's going to be it for Gotham. I mean, we're not huge fans. Definitely check it out. It's been renewed for season 3, so obviously there's people out there watching it.
No, there's people I just don't see the appeal.
So lastly, in our Talking TV, we are talking what broke the internet Sunday night, and that is Game of Thrones.
Yep.
For those of you that don't know, the prodigal bastard son of Winterfell is alive. Not that anybody really had any doubt. Jon Snow is alive. The internet was absolutely shattered Sunday and Monday was all that you could hear about. What were your thoughts, Anthony, on
Didn't
Jon
see
Snow?
it.
What?
I didn't see it.
What?
I watched every episode. Didn't see last week's. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, I
yeah.
didn't spoil anything for you. 'Cause
That's
you
all
could
right.
have gone
The
deep.
internet destroyed me. So
Robert, your thoughts on Jon Snow?
He came back sooner than what I thought he was going to
we
come
were
back.
talking. We had thought like episode 7 or 8.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even thinking that. I thought he was going to kind of be that mid-season thing where he comes back and I was thinking episode 5, and they were going to drag it out a little more and try to get there, but nope. Episode 2, he's back.
He's back, and apparently death has changed him in a big way, according to the interviews I've read with Kit Harington. But that wasn't the only news in that episode. Arya looks like she's going to start her face training again, or
Yep.
faceless man training. And Bran Stark finally makes his appearance after being gone for an entire season. And one of the great things about having Bran's character is they're able to do flashbacks now, which is something that was never done in the books. And it's a great way to see some of the other characters.
Well, no, they did do him in the books. As far as basically, there was a lot of things when he gets into the tree. Gets into the three-eyed crow, they're going back in time a lot. So there's some of the scenes you saw initially in the episode where those are from the book.
Now, was there in the book about Hodor being... That was one of the big revelations of this episode to me, is that Hodor was a normal, functioning person. He could speak, he was smart.
Not. He was sort of, yeah. It was they changed some of the names because they already had Walder, and so you have Walder Frey, which is the main character. His name's Walder in the book, not Willis, like they did in the TV show. So I can see some of the things that they've changed just due to similarity.
I saw a great meme that said had him saying Hodor, and then it cut to Gary Coleman going, "What you talking about, Willis?"
What you talking about, Willis? Yeah.
But it was great to see his character. I'm looking forward to see how he became Hodor. But they're setting up some great storylines for this season. I'm really excited about it.
Next week is Tower of Joy, and
it's gonna be amazing.
And I hope with the internet being what it is, and I'm not a fan of R plus L equals J. I just still think it works, but for that's just me. But I hope that when they hit it, they cut it off just before you think you're going to get the answer.
And if you're not watching Game of Thrones, you're 6 seasons behind. Come for the incest, stay for the dragons. That's what I always tell people. It's a great show. Get on it. It's available on HBO. New episodes air on Sunday nights. But now we're going to get into the meat of why we're here, people, and that is the release of Marvel's Captain America Civil War. We've all seen it. I've seen it twice. Robert, Anthony, you guys went last night as well. And I got to start by saying I think this is hands down the best superhero movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a little more. It's different than what I expected it to be. I still had Avengers: Age of Ultron kind of fresh in my mind,
which left a bad taste in my mouth.
Not a bad taste. Just the pacing, the way Josh Whedon directs, and I forgot that I was watching a Russo brothers film, which is a little more cerebral.
It's very cerebral, and I felt like it didn't have the plot holes that a lot of the previous Marvel movies have had. This was a very well put together, tight 2-hour, 15-minute masterpiece. I feel like there was not a single minute of this movie that you could have cut out. Like, everything was integral to the story and integral to why each character chose the side that they did.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, just a quick synopsis of the movie. Basically, after all the destruction that's been caused in the previous Marvel movies, Washington, D.C., Sokovia, New York, the world's United Nations come together and decide that they need to regulate when the Avengers are called into action. Half the Avengers decide that they'll sign the Sokovia Accords. Captain America's team decides that they should be the ones to make decisions when they're called in and not left up to governments with agendas. Basically, two sides are split and a fight ensues. So, let's start the discussion by saying, who are you? Are you Team Cap or are you Team Iron Man? I'm Team Iron Man all the way.
I never really picked a side. It was just I wanted to see. In the comic, I was Team Cap America. That was not a problem for me. In the movie, I did not pick a side because I wanted to see how they were going to do it. And I think they make very good points. Again, this is probably the most cerebral, the one where I saw that you look at the actors, they're actually like acting, and you're like, oh, you forget, like Chris Evans is a really good actor. Robert Downey Jr. is a really good actor.
You felt invested.
You felt invested in it.
Which I hadn't
invested
felt in a Marvel movie before. Like, I had never really felt like I was hinging on what's going to happen next, and that's what I really felt like with this movie. But one of the biggest things is it's based off the Civil War comic.
Yeah.
We say based in
Loosely.
a very, very
loose.
loose sense. For those of you that haven't read the Civil War comic, there are some great differences. Basically, it's not anything from the Marvel movies that is the reason why the UN gets involved. It's a reality show with some C-list superheroes. An explosion is caused at an elementary school, causing a great loss of casualties. Accident. The government comes in with what they call the Registration Act in the comic books, basically saying that superheroes not only have to be decided when to call in, but they have to register their secret identities, which was one of Captain America's biggest mistakes, which I didn't really understand in the comics because everyone knew Captain America.
Well, everybody in the comics, in the Civil War comics, they're written by Mark Millar, so everyone's just a little bit out of character, which is pretty typical for a Mark Millar book.
Now, I hold the Civil War comics up to a high candle because, in my opinion, it has what I consider to be one of the most iconic panels ever drawn in a comic, and that's in the second issue when Peter Parker unmasks himself to the media. Since I've been Spider-Man since I was 15 years old, any questions? So we all knew that with the rights and everything else like that, there was no way they could adapt the story fully in the way that we'd read it in the comics. That being said, as loosely based as it was, what were your thoughts in comparing the comic to what we saw in the film?
Well, I'm not a big fan of the comic series. Like I said before, I thought everyone was way out of character, and they're all a little more ruthless than they usually are. Especially Tony in the books was a dick.
He was
not just arresting his friends; he was putting them in horrible, like Guantanamo Bay style.
The negative zone. The negative zone was where all their prisons were. Yeah,
and it's a place that's made out of nightmares.
That's got one of the great
keep your friends.
One of the great panels in that is when Daredevil's being brought through the negative zone. He spits out a coin.
Yeah.
He gives it to Tony. He goes, "There's your piece of silver, Judas." Like, just the
and it's actually it's Iron Fist. He's wearing Daredevil's costume.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not even that far into. So obviously they weren't going to be able to adapt everything. That being said, I feel like this take on Civil War was extremely well done. I feel like every single character, you could see why they sided with the way they did. I felt like the actual reasoning for the Sokovia Accords made sense after everything that we've seen in the movies. Bringing Thunderbolt Ross back, though, was a bit of a stretch.
That's pretty cool. I liked it.
No, I didn't think so at all. I think it's nice to acknowledge that those Hulk movies happened, or at least the Incredible Hulk happened.
Now, with his character, he did hint that he had had a heart attack, and that had kind of changed him. Do you guys ever see him becoming Red Hulk?
Yes.
No,
I see it.
See, I'm gonna have to side with Robert there. I think with his character, I think this version of Thunderbolt Ross, we will never see turn into Red Hulk.
No, because I don't think they're gonna make another Hulk movie unless
that's actually in news. Apparently, they're trying to work with Universal to get some contractual stuff for a standalone Hulk. But I had thought if they did turn him into Red Hulk, it would be a great way for Hulk to come back.
Yeah.
After leaving in Avengers 2, what a better way to draw him out than an out of control Red Hulk that he would need to come and stop. That being said, we'll never see it.
We won't know what's going on with the Hulk until Thor comes out anyway.
Yeah.
Which Ragnarok, I'm excited to see that. I'm excited that Taika
awesome.
Waititi's directing it. From he did What We Do in the Shadows,
Yep.
which is one of my absolute favorite comedies. But so moving on, the Russo brothers now taking the helm of the Marvel movies from Joss Whedon, which I have to say, handoff completed, well done. The Russo brothers really took charge with this movie. I mean, I think we were all fans of Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Which I'm
absolutely.
not a Captain America guy. The first Captain America movie, I could live without it. Winter Soldier really hooked me. And up until this movie, I had thought was the best Marvel movie.
Winter Soldier. Again, things I like about the cerebral aspect that the Russos bring in. It's not like a Joss Whedon film where it's a lot of action oriented. There's quippy lines. It's a lot like of some of his TV shows where, here comes that one liner that you're coming with. The Russos tend to take an angle of we're going to tell a story. Superheroes happen to be in it, and wow, I was very, very, very happy with the way that this came out. To the point where I was like, wait, I should be, where's the action? And it happened, but it didn't happen in the way I thought it was going to happen.
Now, that being said, like, I do wish Doctor Strange had been in this movie. I'm just so itching for that movie to get here. But we did get 2 huge Marvel debuts, and that is Black Panther and Spider-Man. And I want to start with Black Panther because I personally feel like he stole the show. I know everybody loves Spidey. They love what they did with him in that movie. But I had no expectations of what Black Panther was or what they were going to bring to the character, and I was utterly blown away by Chadwick Boseman.
Chadwick Boseman did a really, really good job. It was unassuming. The way he's introed, for me, kind of felt a little rushed.
Yeah.
It just a teeny bit rushed because
I feel like the reason they kind of did that was so this way his movie doesn't have to be an origin. It can just be Black Panther, and this is what we do.
Yeah, this is what we do. And, essentially they use a lot of his origin story in this one where his father gets killed. He assumes the mantle of the king, but also assumes the mantle of Black Panther. Yep. And is out to find justice for his father's killer, which is very apparent throughout the entire film as he's really trying to take down Bucky Barnes.
And that's one of the things about the film is it can be said that he's Team Iron Man, but he's truly the one independent in this movie. He's not on anybody's side. He's just out for vengeance.
What's weird about him is that he was a little more vengeful in the movie than I would have liked to see him, but it made so much sense.
I think it played well, and
it made so much sense in the end because his arc was fully completed when he
that monologue at the end.
Monologue at the end was what really did it for me. I was really on that line where I was like, man, they're talking about reciprocal rage and what it was doing, and we'll talk about Tony Stark, because it's like he's on. You can see that. Black Panther is on tilt the entire time. He's just bent on killing the Winter Soldier. And then he realizes what's going on, and then he's able to back away in that moment where he's sitting there with Daniel, I don't want to call him Baron Zemo. It's hard for me to do that.
He's just Zemo.
He's Zemo. And that's another thing we'll talk about.
How great was that scene where they're all in the car after they've been arrested, and Chadwick Boseman just looks at me and goes, "How long do you think you can hide your friend from me?" Just that guttural vengeance.
And can we just acknowledge altogether as a group that his suit looked bad?
I had wished we'd gotten see them make it though. That was the one thing I wanted to see the origin of the suit.
Yeah, already had it.
It's a decades-old suit. I mean,
the one thing, and I was talking to Robert, and we wanted to save this for the podcast. Now, my understanding in the comics was he's an extremely trained athlete. He's got the martial arts background, the fighting background.
Super intelligent.
But it seemed like he had some enhanced strength and speed in the movie.
That comes from, they haven't explained that yet. Most of the fact is he gets some of his strength from Panther God, as well as an enhanced herb that only grows in Wakanda, or what they call the heart-shaped herb, which it only can be used in the lineage of the kings of Wakanda.
Because he flat out runs Captain America in that highway scene, which is something amazing to see. If you've seen, was it Winter Soldier? Was it the first Captain America where Cap's running on your left?
Yeah.
So we know Cap is fast, and he blew him away like a white guy at the Olympics. In the 100-yard dash, just gone. But, Robert, we had wanted to touch upon it. We have not really seen a strong African-American superhero yet on film. I mean, we talked about Will Smith's Hancock, but that was portrayed as an alcoholic, and it was a redemption story more than anything. As an African-American kid growing up, there wasn't really that many African-American superheroes. So seeing Black Panther on screen represented the way that he was. What are your thoughts on that as far as a strong African-American hero?
Yeah, this is one of the ones where they have... When you look at the MCU, we had Rhodey from Iron Man, but there was kind of a side character. It's like, hey, this is my sidekick. And then you got Anthony Mackie playing Falcon and sidekick. Yep. Now you have a guy who's a king. He's nobody's sidekick.
Who they refer to as king multiple times with everyone, Your Highness.
And he's more badass than Captain America.
It's like, Your Highness. They know what they're dealing with. And I think when that moment where when he takes off his mask, they realize they know who they're dealing with. It's like, oh... yeah, this guy. Now, they showed his physical aspects, which I enjoyed very much so. I want them to get in the intelligent part because this guy is he's just as smart.
He's a member of the Illuminati in the comics.
Yeah, he's just as smart as Tony Stark. It's like he's one of the 10 smartest people in the world because he has, he's got degrees from all over the world. He's got doctorates. He is a smart guy. And so they've shown his combat ability, but now they have to hit that other aspect of his intelligence. And
Which I think we're going to see in the movie. I think they really set him up for his solo movie to be a great film. It's something that I had not been even on my radar, and I walked out of that movie excited.
Yeah,
for Black
I'm excited
Panther.
to see that because one of the things, again, being a black guy, you're seeing this. You always want to see representation. So when women think about Scarlett Johansson playing Black Widow, why isn't there a Black Widow movie? You want to see that, and we'll probably get that representation with Captain Marvel on the Marvel side. When that movie comes out or whenever they get that on there, DC is probably going to get Wonder Woman comes out next year. So that's going to be the first really good test of that. But to see him up on screen and just look at the way that they portrayed him, they made him look strong. He wasn't going to play second fiddle to anybody else. And the way that they interwove his story at the end, because I didn't think he was going to, after the set piece battle, I didn't think he was going to be much part of the plot. For that, I just thought, she was trying to, put him down at the end of when they were escaping on the Quinjet. I was like, oh, that's going to be the end of it. But no, he shows up after the raft, which I that was a thumbs up for showing the raft. I appreciate that.
That was a really cool scene.
That was a really good nod to think about that. It was showing the raft. He follows Tony, and they had that closure where he's actually the logical person.
Now, one thing I will knock this movie for is Marvel just cannot seem to get a villain right.
Yes.
The closest we've come to, in my opinion, a great Marvel villain was Kilgrave from Jessica Jones. I feel like that was, and he was only a villain to one person.
Not even that. I think they do a better job in the TV shows because you look at the Kingpin character.
Kingpin was an amazing
villain. And on the cinematic side, Loki. If we're going to name the top two villains, it's Loki and Robert Redford's character from Winter Soldier.
Exactly.
Those are the there's a plan here. I don't know what it is with the Marvel cinematic universe that they can't.
They can get the heroes so right,
but they can't get the villains. And I felt like they wasted an opportunity with Crossbones. I felt like they wasted an opportunity with Baron Zemo because he's a major,
huge player in the Marvel comics.
Huge villain. He forms the Master of Evil, and you're sitting here like. Wait.
And they basically made him out to be like an emo Hot Topic employee. Like, my family is gone and I am sad. Like,
yeah, and you're like, wait,
He wasn't even like a bad guy. He was just sympathetic.
He was
bypasser.
He was upset that his family died, and he was like, well, I can't take on the superheroes, so the best thing for me to get my revenge on the fact that they dropped it was to create this elaborate plan, which
heavily relied on lots of coincidences.
Lots of coincidences and things. Is like that moment with Black Panther is like, your father was a great man, I admired him, and it's like, and I'm sorry that this happened to you.
How about the speed of Black Panther catching that bullet when Zemo goes to off himself and he just gets the claw under there to grab him? Like,
awesome.
No, we're not done with you yet.
Yeah.
But I think the villain aspect of it is something that we really need to work on. Hopefully with Thanos. I mean, Thanos, it seems like they're betting everything on that to redeem the villain side.
No,
because what do we have now? We don't know who Mads Mikkelsen's playing in Doctor Strange as far as the villain role goes. And then I'm trying to think what we have coming out between that and Avengers Infinity War, which I don't think is.
Well, it's gonna be Loki again for Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, is Ragnarok the last one before Infinity War, if I'm correct?
Yeah, I mean, and for me, looking at what they've done, I was hoping, at the end of this movie, it's like, well, they've kind of set up Secret Avengers, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely.
But it doesn't look like we're gonna get that kind of film between here and. You may see that in Infinity War, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that film, and I feel like maybe another film would set it up because you're going to go into Doctor Strange in November. They need to get to this point for me where they have to start linking these universes together. What you're seeing on television, what you're seeing on on Netflix.
It's a shame to me that neither Marvel or DC is like as into connecting their TV or Netflix universes.
Well, they do connect the Netflix universe, but
with the
it's
girl,
just loose.
No, Tony Stark, the woman, Charlie Spencer is the name of the son. So whoever the mother is that dies that Tony confronts is in Luke Cage.
Yeah. So the thing where I'm going to look at it for this one is that the TV shows acknowledge what happens on the movie side. I need to start seeing the movies acknowledge what happens on the TV side to start making this universe make sense.
Well, especially with what they've done, because Marvel's pulled Inhumans from their release schedule and what they're doing on S.H.I.E.L.D. with the Inhumans. It seems like that's what they're kind of banking everything on that. So I need to see some of the connections here. I don't feel like S.H.I.E.L.D. really connects with Marvel in the way that it should.
It should. And it's like not, when Winter Soldier came out, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was hanging on by a thread. and then Winter Soldier came out, and then all of a sudden, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is interesting. Now, you know, outside the fact that, yes, they've had Lady Sif on. Yes, they've had Nick Fury on. You know, that's your cinematic tie on network television. What I'd like to see is now you got to start tying that, you know, the scene with Spider-Man where it says, where's your guy, Queens? You know, obviously Tony Stark had been looking at people with abilities, so we found Spider-Man, that was his guy.
Right.
Why not make a quick Jessica Jones reference, or a Luke Cage reference, or even a Devil's Hell kitchen
Here's
reference?
my thing, and it's even as simple as this. On S.H.I.E.L.D., I believe it was 4 or 5 episodes ago, they get exposed to the government, and there's these news stories running about Coulson being wanted and everything else like that, but yet no one in the Avengers knows Coulson is still alive.
Yeah.
So just even that small part of it, it makes no sense to me that they're connecting those things.
One more thing I want to point out about Civil War that nobody, at least, is no Nick Fury.
Absolutely.
No Nick Fury. And I don't know if that was intentional or...
For someone that was such a big part of bringing the Avengers together and everything else like that, they've kind of phased him out completely.
Well, I don't think they phased that. I don't think either was a
He
schedule.
said he's in Infinity War. So.
Yeah, he's going to be in Infinity War for sure. But, you know, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, he's been such an integral character. He was an integral character in towards the end of Age of Ultron. And it's just like, oh, I dusted this out of mothballs, and here we go. We've got an air carrier, okay. But what are you guys doing? And he's nowhere to be seen in this film. And is that on purpose, or
He could be up to something. I mean, they've got their things planned out through 2030, so I'm sure that there's a reason for it. One of the things I did like in this movie, though, was the expansion on the characters of Vision and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Which Vision is personally one of my favorite characters. I love what they did with him. I love Paul Bettany playing him. I love Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch. I was hesitant when I had first heard her cast because she's the oldest Olsen sister. But I think in this movie, we really got to see more of the personal side of her, with everybody being afraid of her. And her and Vision both having that, we're trying to understand our powers. We're not fully sure what we're capable of. But I like the way that they played off each other. I like the way they kind of foreshadowed their relationship a little bit. Yeah. But Vision especially, just his grasp to understand the Infinity Stone, his take on the whole Sokovia Accords and everything else like that, and seeing how things progress. I really like what they've done with his character. Now, what are your thoughts on Vision in the MCU?
Vision, and I think they hit it right there, and I like the fact that one of the great bright spots out of Age of Ultron, when they that they didn't reveal, or at least when it was later in the story that they came out with, is that, you know, here's Jarvis becoming.
It's absolutely. You're so much more invested in the fact from him being Jarvis into
this character, and to have the actor who's a really good actor, and Paul Bettany's great. To have him be a part of this universe, and now take him, because he's been essentially been in the universe just as long
as Robert Downey Jr. And apparently they had told him, which I didn't know, they had told him that if these movies succeeded, eventually he would become the Vision. So that was the plan all along.
And so it's good to have him in there and have him as a part of this. But, you know, the Scarlet Witch character, it's hard for me to get into enjoy this because of the fact that, again, that the MCU is not fully together. Because as much as Scarlet Witch is an Avenger, she plays a huge part in the X-Men storyline.
I think she's more an X-Men storyline person than she is
Avengers. The idea of mutants,
yeah.
Because here you have this person straddling the line where she's part of her and her brother are part of a major superhero team, but their father has this agenda, and you're not going to get it. And that might, hope of all hopes, when the MCU, Fox, please play ball. It would be great to see this story played out.
Here's my quip with the Scarlet Witch. I feel like Marvel doesn't really know what to do with her as far as her powers go. We saw one power set in Avengers Age of Ultron with her getting into people's heads, the telekinesis, this and that. In this movie, we saw more of an offensive set of capabilities with her being able to telekinetically manipulate things and that. In the comic books, she is one of the most powerful. She can actually reset reality, which she does in the House of M storyline. I feel like bringing that aspect of her powers in would be great because it's an instant fail-safe reset for Infinity War. Anybody that dies, anything that happens there, she could remake reality.
And that's and let's be honest, with the House of M story, that's where Marvel said, yeah, we're resetting the universe and we're killing off half the mutants because we don't own the rights to them we don't own the rights to them in the movies. And so that's one of those things that kind of played into why we see the X-Men kind of tapering off in this. But just the alternate reality, the ability to create bad luck, all the hex bolts.
Well, for what you're building for Infinity War, like I feel like any good superhero team needs that reset button. Like that's why I love having a time travel or something like that. It's a fail-safe, built-in way to go back and change something.
Yeah, that's definitely it. I mean, one of the things I'll say, quick gripe, no one died in this movie.
I'm so pissed about that because there was rumors that they shot 4 funerals.
And Peggy dies off screen.
Everybody was like, this is going to be huge. They're going to kill Cap, everything else like that. And nobody
died. And so, that was the major thing. At the end of Civil War, Captain America is dead. Goliath dies, and I thought it for sure was going to be War Machine after that because they needed that moment.
And they can't even injure somebody. Like War Machine gets paralyzed, but then at the end of the movie, he's got Stark Tech helping him walking. It's like nobody.
Well,
stays
if there's
damaged.
Stark Tech in your world, you'd be walking.
Well, I mean, if you compare DC and Marvel, whereas DC had the balls to kill Superman in their first movie, and Marvel won't even let Nick Fury go. Like it's just. They won't let in. There are their knocks, but I mean, this movie was well put together.
It was well put together, but it's like little things where if we're talking about the difference between the original comic storyline and what they saw. So there was no Goliath getting killed, which kind of set things off. And I thought
that was a huge moment in the books.
That was a huge moment in the books. And then Cap dying at the end, because now it's just like, okay, we're again Secret Avengers, rogue agents out there.
Yep.
And
it would have allowed you to set up Bucky as the new Captain America, because Sebastian Stan signed on for 9 movies.
Yeah.
He has the longest Marvel movie contract because he is set up to become Captain America after Avengers Infinity
Punisher
War.
was also Captain America for a little while after Civil War. You remember that?
Yeah, so Norman Osborn was also the Iron Patriot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can go with that. But, I mean, the big meat of what happened in this movie was the introduction of Spider-Man into the Marvel Universe. And I mean, that's what we were all there for. And I gotta say, I think they hit the nail on the head. After 5 tries of Sony getting Spider-Man, I feel like the 30 minutes that he was in this movie was the best Spider-Man that I've ever seen.
I love me some quippy Spider-Man.
And that's one of the things. Not only did they finally have him as a kid, it's not some 30-year-old trying to play an 18-year-old. It's Tom Holland playing a 15, 16-year-old kid. He had the sarcasm, but I also liked that he was brand new to being Spider-Man. He's not quite sure of his abilities yet, not too confident in himself.
He's like, I've been doing this been doing this for 6 months. That's what he's been saying. I've been doing this for 6 months. It's like, Tony's trying to poking around, trying to figure. It's like he's like, he's being a teenager. Just like, no, don't touch that stuff. No, where did you get this? And
it was a great balance too, whereas you had Black Panther come in as like the vengeful new guy and stuff like that. Spider-Man came in as almost like the fanboy, just like, I'm here, but like, holy crap, I'm here with Captain America.
Same with Ant-Man.
Ant-Man too. I really like the way
he
they
had some of the best lines in the movie. I really liked that.
Here's your shield, Captain America. Orange slices. Remember? Does anybody have any orange slices? But Spider-Man, I mean, for all the build-up and all the secrecy around him, I totally understand it because I would have hated for any of that to have been spoiled for me before the movie. What are your thoughts on the secrecy surrounding Spider-Man?
I'm glad they played it really close to the chest, and I'm glad that he was in it a lot more than we were expecting, because I remember the rumor was that it was a glorified cameo, and I'm so happy that he was just like part of that big spectacle at the end of the second act, which was so fun because he just wouldn't shut up, and that's what I love about Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't shut up. It's like, there's that scene where it's like, Tony, how young is this kid?
Oh, it's because have you ever seen that really old movie?
Date him. That's what he said.
Have you ever seen that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back?
That I love, the AT-AT reference and everything else like that. One of the things I will knock, though, and they can chalk it up to him just being new to getting his powers and stuff like that, but I hated not seeing the spider sense. There were some hits that he took and things like that I feel like...
There was a little moment where they kind of showed it.
They kind of showed it in that scene where it's Falcon and Winter Soldier kind of...
Duking it out.
Well, they were duking it out. They're running through the airport. And he's like, they're trying to get to the Quinjet. They're trying to do this, and he's just like, go get those guys. And the Winter Soldier throws that door, and Spider-Man just ducks.
Yeah, he sees it.
He's like.
It's not the one that he hooks back and he goes, "Hey, you forgot something."
He's like, and forgot something, and throws it right back at him. And I think the fact that one of the things also I see is enjoyed in that scene where they're running through the airport terminal is he comes in, takes out Falcon, And then the Winter Soldier throws his punch. There's a metal arm. And
Dude,
he's like,
you have a
catches
metal arm?
and he catches it, and it's like, dude, you have a metal arm. And the Winter Soldier's like,
Which says something for
How
his
strong
strength.
are you?
are you?
Think about what we've seen that arm do over the course of 2 movies. So the fact that he just palmed that arm like it was nothing really does showcase his strength.
Spider-Man has always been one of the characters in the comics where he is up there in terms of strength. He's stronger than Cap. You can bend Cap in half.
How about that little moment between him and Cap where Cap drops the truck on him?
And he
He's
catches
like, you got
it.
heart, kid. Where are you from? He's like, Queens. And then Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Just that little moment.
That's the thing that I always felt like was missing from the Spider-Man movies, with exception of like the train scene in Spider-Man 2 by Sam Raimi. He's never really that powerful, but he's pretty strong. He could punch the Hulk pretty hard if he had to. And his speed and his grace was just...
Yeah, now, Robert, you're touching on the point with Black Panther, you wanting to see his intelligence. That's the one thing I had wanted to see, and they kind of hinted on a little bit with Spider-Man of him inventing his own web fluid, things like that. But, I mean, him having the beat-up junky computer and stuff like that, I was kind of
the really shitty
I feel like
suit.
the Peter Parker I know could take apart, like, your modern computers and build himself something like...
the idea is when they see him, they show the housing project, or what looks to be like Co-op City in Bronx. But this housing project, he's walking in there, he's got a DVD, he's learned to scrounge and do things in his life. He's got the old technology, but he's a really smart guy, and he knows how to make the most out of what he has. And so he's, it's like, well, why do the goggles? Well, they help me focus because of
his senses are turned up to 11. Yeah, so he's just trying to figure it out. Now, what are your thoughts on the Benjamin Button effect going on with Aunt May? We started with the 70-year-old, then we got Sally Field in her 50s, and now we have totally
Marissa Tomei.
She's
Tomei.
Gorgeous.
Yeah,
so
she was gorgeous.
I like that. I do like that casting. I really, really do like that casting because I think they kept going with the old person. They wanted to sound this, and no, this is perfect.
I love that Robert Downey Jr. almost wanted to bang. Like, it seemed like he was flirting with you're
Oh,
unusually
yeah,
hot.
Absolutely. They're setting the
unusually
seats
hot
for that a little
on.
bit. And he's Tony Stark's in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, that has been confirmed, which I like the mentor-mentee relationship there. I'm
awesome.
really looking forward to that. But how
They're
amazing
great
is
in
it?
the comics together.
We
They
are
just have
not
good
going to
chemistry.
have to sit through another origin. No Spider-Bite, no Uncle Ben dying.
Well, they're probably going to touch on that a little bit.
Maybe a flashback sequence.
They'll probably touch on that a little bit because it's the idea is, again, it sounds like Peter Parker, when Tony sees him, that he has been through some things, and there's a reason why he puts on the mask, not because he can, but he feels he has to. And so they're going to have to touch on that when they get to his solo film.
I feel like they got the perfect blend with him. I feel like the Tobey Maguire movies nailed Spider-Man but didn't nail Peter Parker. I felt like the Andrew Garfield ones nailed Peter Parker, didn't nail Spider-Man. And
Really? I think the exact opposite of
See,
that.
there was parts of Andrew Garfield with the sarcasm and things like that I feel
I
like
thought
they
he
nailed.
was great with the mask on, but I couldn't stand
But
him as cool
he
Peter.
wasn't the nerdy kid, like,
No, he was
unsure
cool. Yeah, he
of
was cool
himself
Peter
that
Parker.
Spider-Man is. And I feel like Tom Holland really brought that. Like, the fact that he knows he's got this power, but he's unsure how to use it. He just knows he wants to help people.
Yeah.
So I really like the way that they're going to play Robert Downey Jr. off that of bringing him into it. Is there anybody else here hoping, though, that we get Iron Spider?
Yeah, that's gonna be a thing.
I think that has to have, whether it's an Easter egg, an after credits clip, something like that we need to see. But I mean, I feel really confident going into Spider-Man: Homecoming after this movie. What do you?
I do.
Absolutely.
I do feel. I even feel confident with it because there's now talk of Iron Man 4, which
I would kill for. Like
Yeah.
he's the linchpin of the Marvel universe, hands down. That movie, it started with him. They can never recast Iron Man. I feel like that's one role that you can honestly never recast in the Marvel universe.
No, and you really can't. And that's what, we could talk. I know that you have the next thing. I'll talk the future of the MCU stuff.
Well, that leads right into it, is the future of the MCU. After this movie, obviously there's a different tone, a different direction from what they're going. But I like it. I like what we've seen set up, and I like how we're going to be integrating some of these new characters in.
Yeah, and again, like we were talking about before, I think what I need to start seeing now is my major gripe with what I'm seeing in the Marvel Universe is the TV shows reference what happens in the movies. I think the movies need to start referencing what happens in the TV shows because, again, you need to have this complete universe so this grows. Because if you're going to have 67 characters in Infinity War or 68 characters, outside of your, Pepper Potts, Natalie Portman character, who else are you bringing in?
Right?
You know,
We'll have all the people that are introduced.
Well, my question
in
with
the
Infinity
meantime.
War is who do they have actually powerful enough that they have rights to that can take on Thanos? We know that the second gauntlet will be out there, so you and I have talked about Adam Warlock,
Yeah.
a couple other people, but I mean, we're going to have to really see what they can bring together with that. What are your thoughts, though, knowing now that before Infinity War, we're only going to have Ragnarok and Doctor Strange, it seems.
No, I thought Guardians 2 as well.
Oh, and
Oh, yeah,
Guardians 2. And
Guardians
Guardians
2.
2. How are they going to tie Doctor Strange in? Do you see? I mean,
well, they've started getting into them. If you've seen the second season of Daredevil, they've really started tying in
the mystical realm.
the mystical realm, and that this is a thing, and they've been hinting at it for a while. Doctor Strange should tie that in a bow and bring it.
We know
into,
his movie will involve the time gem.
Yeah.
So we're going to look to see how that opens. But I'm looking to see how he's going to be brought into the greater fold of the Avengers universe. I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, time gem, the Eye of
Yeah, I
Agamotto.
really want to see Strange and Stark together, the awesome facial hair bros. They call
Just to
themselves.
see those two on screen. And can we just acknowledge the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman have carried themselves over into so many fandoms now? You have them as Sherlock. You had them as Bilbo and Smaug in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yep.
Now you have Martin Freeman as one of the UN ambassadors and Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I love that those two just seem to
They're
partner
just
up wherever
buddies
they go.
and they follow each other around.
Yep.
But I mean, it seems like we all universally love this movie, but if you had to knock it for something, what would you say is the best and worst moments of Captain America Civil War?
Best moment.
Pick a scene, your favorite scene that you were
Best
like,
moment.
this is what I need.
Spidey versus Giant Man.
Spidey versus
That was just so much fun. I don't even care about anything else at that point. I was
I
just
think
like,
the
this is
debut
so
of Giant
fun.
Man was nice too. That it was something that he couldn't do for long.
Yeah,
and
it was really
like,
cool.
It took something out of him physically.
He did it though. He was Giant Man for a long time in the movie.
It's only like 3 minutes actually.
yeah,
in
but
the
still, out of like a 5-minute scene, you know what I mean? It's not.
So
that's
Giant
pretty long.
Man's what you had to highlight. If you had to knock what your least favorite
I
part
would
was.
just say, and it's just a problem on the business end, but there was just a very big hole left by the absence of Reed Richards in a Civil War story. He was a big player in the comics.
Robert, how about you? Your best and worst moments?
I think the best moments are the introduction of Spider-Man, the introduction of Black Panther. Those were the two best moments. And then the worst moment, was Baron Zemo, just paper-thin villain.
See, for me, I got to go. The best moment is the homage to the Civil War cover of Cap and Iron Man fighting.
Yeah.
There's the scene where Iron Man's blasting Cap, and that is literally ripped off the cover of Iron Man 1. And I have to go with my worst moment, the fact that Black Panther basically just stands by for that final fight while they're going at it. Understandably, he's going to look for Captain or Baron Zemo, whatever you want to call him, but I feel like he could have stepped in and somehow involved
Stopped him.
himself.
It's
So
like-
yeah, I feel like he doesn't care about like the quarrels of two American guys.
Well, if they're going to have to bring him into the fold, he's going to have to start caring about something. But, I mean, for somebody that was so diehard going after the Winter Soldier for most of this movie, like, he just completely let him go. Obviously, they knew why because of what happened. But I feel like that was the weakest part is Baron Zemo. I feel like the villains really dragged.
That was the really weak part for me.
And it's something that Marvel's really got to get fixed going forward, especially with Thanos coming and with Ragnarok. If you're bringing the Hulk into that movie, you need to have a villain that's worth bringing the Hulk into that movie. Because if this is just some buddy movie where he's downplayed, I'm going to be devastated.
I'm hoping that Thor 3 is a lot more cosmic than like the old school science thing. I hope it's like
I'm not a Thor
real
fan.
cosmic
I'm
merit.
not a big fan of his solo movies. I feel like that they kind of don't fit in with the rest of the MCU, but I get why they need to for Infinity War. But that being said, I'm not a huge fan of Thor. I don't have high expectations going into this movie, except for the fact that it might possibly set up Planet Hulk. So
Yeah, they're not going there. We're a long way off from.
I think it's too far. Yeah.
So this was a movie 2 years in the making from the time they announced it at San Diego Comic-Con. It's hands down been one of the most hyped up movies I've ever seen.
Thor?
In your opinion, did the movie live up to the hype?
Civil War.
Civil
yeah.
War, yeah, it did live up to the hype, but I mean, they did it as a reactionary to Batman v Superman, and unfortunately for Batman v Superman, they did a better job.
They did do a better job, but they also had the establishment of 15 movies almost that have been made at this point for these characters, and we've seen them together. That being said, I agree, it lived up to the hype. It's one of my favorite superhero movies ever made, but where would you guys rank it in the pantheon of Marvel movies?
It's probably number
Before
one
this
for
movie
me.
came out, I had Guardians of the Galaxy, Winter Soldier,
Soldier.
Iron Man. Those were my top
That was
three.
my top 3 as
Yeah.
well. Now
Wow.
I think Iron Man's bumped off the list, and
I
Civil
can't
War
knock Iron Man
is
because,
number
in
one.
my opinion, as just a film lover and a film critic, Iron Man is a perfect movie. Not a superhero movie, a perfect movie. Plot development, character development, to set up a universe for everything that Iron Man was. It is an all-encompassing film, and I think that's one of the closest we've gotten to a good villain. I feel like Ironmonger was a great villain in that movie.
And they had, I mean, it's Jeff Bridges. Come on.
It's Jeff Bridges. So
the dude, man.
Iron Man, I think I'm bumping Guardians down to fourth. I would have to go Winter Soldier, Civil War, Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man still. Yeah. But Civil War is definitely, hands down, I think Marvel's best movie. And for a movie that was superheroes fighting superheroes, it was amazingly well made. You could see every character's point
for such
of view.
A dark concept. It was funny.
I feel like this was a way darker Marvel movie, though.
This is by far, again, when you're dealing with the Russo brothers, they somehow managed to get you drawn in. The difference between the Russos and Joss Whedon is that they just draw you in with the plot. And Tony Stark, you feel that last scene where he's looking at that video.
Where he has to watch his parents be murdered.
It's why you watch his parents be murdered. And because they're linking things together. So that first scene, they're at MIT.
I knew that the whole time, though. You're watching that, when you watched the car crash the first time, you knew that was the Starks. Like 1991, because they'd always said that they had died.
You know, Howard Stark. And the fact, the guy from Mad Men who plays his father. I know that Dominic, what's his name? Another English actor, plays his father earlier on. But Howard Stark, to have that drawn back in and to say, again, that circle of vengeance. And so that now, you know, even though Zemo was the one who killed Black Panther's family, the Winter Soldier actually killed Tony's dad and mom.
Not just killed them. He
brutally
murdered them. It was
and
really
I think that's
dark
what
for
had turned
Disney.
Tony, like literally watching him.
There was a visible shift in his face.
It was like, did you know? And it's like, and Cap's trying to formulate the words to say yes, but he's quicker at it. Did you know?
And lastly, I do want to touch on this. For Marvel being so afraid to kill any of their heroes or anything else like that, they turned Falcon into a mass murderer. Me and my friends, we kept account. I was talking to Robert briefly. In the first 13 minutes of that movie, Falcon brutally kills 11 people. Like, shot to the face, killed. So you figure they're so willing to do that. And I understand they're terrorists, and there's an agenda of why these guys need to die. But you're so willing to just blast dudes in the face, but you can't let one secondary character go. I felt like this movie would have paid off more with the death. There would have been...
Yeah, there would have been a larger payoff with the death.
I felt like there was more consequence, because I feel like there was no real consequences of this movie. Obviously, there's the UN aspect of it, but everybody in the raft got freed. Cap is still there. He left the note for Iron Man saying, if you ever need me, I'm there. You've introduced new heroes, but I feel like there was no real consequences for anything that happened.
No, there was none.
And for a movie that it was supposed to be all about this, you guys need to have consequences for what you're doing.
Well, I feel like it was a real... it felt like the second act is over of like the MCU. Now we're entering the big finale.
I mean, Ant-Man tore apart an airport. You don't think that there's going to be somebody responsible?
They did destroy the shit out of that airport.
It's like, hey, we've destroyed a $500 million plane.
Oh, one thing I want to touch on that I had never really gotten to see. One of the differences between Iron Man and War Machine that I always loved was War Machine's just straight up artillery.
Yeah.
And they finally showed it in the scene where Giant Man is swinging the truck at him, and he just launches everything and obliterates the truck before it gets to him. But it was nice to see like fully powered War Machine.
Fully powered War Machine. Iron Man using
the bleeding edge armor.
Yeah, the bleeding edge armor. Vision. He's
Vision
like
in a polo.
His phasing scene. How amazing!
Yeah, he looks
were
really
those,
cool.
Dude. Like just and his ability to change his density at will.
Yeah.
Like Vision. When you had gone to the bathroom, we had talked about how we really thought they had built on the Vision character in this movie. I really liked what they'd done.
He was
with
great.
him.
And he had a lot of really cool comedic beats, which is really interesting.
But we were saying we're just sad because we know that he's just going to get ripped apart by Thanos. In the
knowing that he has the mind gem. I think
he's got the mind gem.
He's got the mind
gem. And
gem.
in the comics, Thanos just straight rips him in half.
It's just like, we're going to rip that out.
Well, Thanos he's going to be one that he's going to kill him. He's going to kill a lot of them. I wouldn't be surprised if the first Infinity movie ends with Thanos pretty much killing everyone.
I think that's what I think it is. I think the first Infinity movie is going to end on such a dark, desperate, dire note.
He's going to destroy the world.
It's going to be something, and then the part 2 will be remaking it. But it's all going to boil down to who's going to wield that second gauntlet and what characters' rights they'll have by that time. Because for all we know, they could get Fantastic Four rights back by then, in Silver Surfer.
I think right now that when you think about that, again, that's something where that last movie was so horrible.
It
just blows my mind that Sony, who made the Spider-Man movies were profitable.
Not as profitable as they wanted it to be.
Not as profitable as they wanted to be, but far more profitable than the Fantastic Four movies. And they were still willing to come and play ball. And I just don't understand. Fox has the X-Men. I get that. They're doing well with those. What the are you going to do with Fantastic Four? You've had 5 chances now.
People don't forget. It needs Marvel.
Well, people don't realize there was actually a failed Fantastic Four movie that was filmed in the 90s. It was filmed, advertised, released, and 2 weeks before it was supposed to come out, they pulled it because they were like, it's crap. So, I mean, we've had 4 chances at Fantastic Four now. I could give a crap less about them. I want Silver Surfer in the MCU because he can wield the gauntlet.
Yeah, well,
Annihilus and Galactus. That Fantastic Four has awesome villains.
It does, and
Doom. They have Doctor Doom.
They have Doctor Doom, and you want those guys because you need that kind of villainy in Galactus, but you also get the Skrulls, and that was the huge thing about one of the disappointing things about the first Avengers movie is that you're looking at it from the standpoint they don't have rights to some of their major alien villains.
Yep, they have like the Chitauri, and that's about it.
The Chitauri, they can't use the Shi'ar. They can the Kree. And you don't have the rights to use the Skrulls, who are a major player in Secret Invasion.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's one of my favorite Marvel storylines. So, I mean, all in all, I think we love this movie. I think that the tone that Marvel is taking from the future is really great. I mean, after what I consider to be a disappointing movie in Avengers: Age of Ultron, I feel like Marvel kind of really redeemed themselves here. I like what they've done with these characters. I'm excited to see what they're doing going forward. So, just wrapping it up on the Marvel Civil War front, your statement, what do you guys think? Are you excited for the future of the MCU, and would you recommend this movie?
We have Spider-Man now. We're good.
We do have Spider-Man. I got to tell you, though, Black Panther stole the show for me.
Yeah, I love him. I'm a huge Black Panther fan. I really was impressed by what they did.
Thoughts on the Spidey suit? That's why I think we should end that. Because it is a take on the original Spidey suit.
I like it. I like that Stark had a hand in it, or at least they made Blade that
the built-in cameras.
Yeah,
that's going to be exciting to see when he starts working for the paper and things like that.
Yeah, it whatever route that they decide to go with that, I think they made good choices along the lines of costume design, character development, because we've seen.
I think they're trying to wash it away. Everything we've seen from Spider-Man. I think we're going to get a villain we've never seen before. Like. It's going to be amazing.
Did you guys notice on the back, he had, like on Spider-Man's back, he had the big fat Spidey from the 60s?
The old school one. That. I love the lenses in the eyes, though. I love that he had the man-made web shooters, even though I did like the organic ones and the Tobey Maguire ones, because I liked the fact that he could never run out. That was the only reason.
Spidey running out of the web shooters is always such a good trope in the Spider-Man book.
Well, I also like the fact that he has to create certain types of web fluid for different enemies that he fights. But I think we're really excited for the MCU going forward, what they've done. I think, hands down, we're all excited for the Spider-Man movie. But I think next is Doctor Strange. And I mean, really, the hype train's going to start building for that one. We're being promised some things that we've never seen in movies before. New types of 3D technology. The mystical realm, they've said that they wanted to wait to get into it till the technology was there. But for a movie that was hyped up as much as it was, I think Civil War delivered. For those of you listening, definitely get out there and see it in theaters. This is not one that you're going to want to wait to come out on DVD. That being said, I think we're going to get some great deleted scenes when this thing does come out.
No, absolutely.
So that's going to wrap up this week's edition of Get Your Geek On. We want to thank you for joining us for our inaugural podcast. We'll be here weekly bringing you the best news and reviews, talking nerdy. So that's going to do it for this week. I'm Chuck Kiwacz.
I'm Robert Dokes.
I'm Anthony Arsenio, and you can check me out on my other podcast, the Hype Train Podcast, on iTunes.
And as always, check out everything on the Nerdorama Network, and check out our other weekly shows, Critics Corner. We love seeing you at the movies. We love to hear what you say, so sound off in the comments below on what you thought of this episode. So for this week's episode of Get Your Geek On, have a good one.